Now, near the end of your sailing career, you entered the teaching profession right here at the United States Merchant Marine Academy as assistant professor, and you did so during a very interesting year here in this academy's history. 1974, for those who do not know, the United States Merchant Marine Academy was the first academy to admit women. In 1974 was the first year. So here you are as a student a few years prior, and now you come back as a professor, and women are here. What was that experience like as a teacher, and also, you know, the first couple of years when women became students?
Well, I came here in 1974 as to be an assistant professor of nautical science. I taught such things as boat handling and navigation and cargo handling and those kinds of things. When I first came here in '74, I didn't realize that was going to be the first year of women coming. So it was kind of a surprise to me when that happened. The department head said, "Oh, we're going to have women in this class." I said, "Oh, that's interesting, right?" But the interesting thing to me was that the women that came here during those years were very mature compared to their male counterpart. It was quite astounding to see that they had a determined direction. They were going to do it here. They were going to make a mark here. And it's interesting. One time I was teaching cargo handling, and we had these king posts and booms down at Sand Hills Hall along the waterfront. And I used to make the people in my class, the men in my class, go up the ladders about 50 feet in the air, go across a cross street, and then down the other king post, just as the exercise to do that, because they may have to do it on the ship. And then the women, of course, they got in line and they were doing it too. And then, while some of them were up there, I would holler up and I would say, "Hey, those of you who are real seamen will come down, not the ladder, but down the stay." That's a rope that comes down and holds the king post in place. Come down the stay, hand over hand. And the men didn't do it, but the women did. That was kind of a shock, but they wanted to make their mark, and they did. And the thing that really makes me feel good is that I look now into the industry and I see some of those women who were here then. They're pilots, harbor pilots, they're ship's masters, they are senior executives in steamship companies or ship companies and in different government agencies. And they've really made their mark. And Kings Point started a tradition among the service academies guys. I can remember those 2 years here, and after the first few months of the first year, you know, West Point wanted to start the military academy wanted to start women too. And I can remember them coming down. West Point's only about 60 miles from here. And they helicoptered down, the officers, and they came here and they were walking through the dormitories and walking through the classrooms to see how the women were doing at Kings Point. And I would say that we had a seamless operation in introducing women to Kings Point. So it's a great thrill.
Now, thereafter, you worked 32 years. This is after your teaching years here. You worked for 32 years ashore, serving as deputy director for most of that time with Marine Safety International right here in New York City. You had a host of accomplishments, but in the midst of all that, you were also working on your ministry, and lo and behold, that kind of set you up for a lot of what you do now here at the Academy.
Right. Yeah, well, I was basically director for most of those years at Marine Safety. What happened is I was teaching here, and a friend of mine was teaching here at the same time, and he went to Marine Safety and invited me to come over. That was a startup company. Okay. We were starting to use, in the mid-'70s, we were starting to use simulators to train mariners and to do research for harbors and waterways. And so this is one of the first, in fact, probably the first commercial company in the United States to do that kind of work. So I went over there to Marine Safety, and eventually then after about 5 or 6 years became the director of the company. And I had my office right here at Kings Point for 9 years because our company operated KORF as a Computer-Aided Operations Research Facility. We operated that for research for the Maritime Administration for 9 years. So I was right here at that point. But during that time, I had finished my PhD degree, and my wife and I were involved in ministry. And by the way, I met my wife right here in this chapel 45 years ago. So it's interesting to come back to it. But we were doing ministry with college-age people in various churches around the area. And we always included Kings Point midshipmen. They would come out to the churches and so forth where we had our ministry. But then in 2006, the chaplain here saw that there was a need among Protestant students to have a community, and he invited my wife and I to come and to create that community here at Kings Point. That's how we got started here at Kings Point. So we've been here, say, for we're going on 5 years now, but we've been in the ministry for probably since we graduated from college, so probably 35 years or more, even 40 years, we have been in the ministry with college students of Kings Point age.
Now, what are some of the programs you both are involved with here from a ministry, from a chapel standpoint?
Like I said, the chaplain wanted a community of Protestant students. He wanted a feeling of community rather than just individuals coming to a chapel. So we started what we call the Bible class, which meets on Sunday morning. We start at 9:30 in the morning with a period of what we call chat and chew time. My wife makes special fruit breads, and we have some bagels and cream cheese. There's time from 9:30 to about 10 minutes to 10, where we're just having a social time, just getting together and talking and having something to eat. And then I start teaching about 10 minutes to 10. That goes to 11 to about 11 o'clock. And that's some people call it a Sunday school, called the Bible class, and that created that community. That's our main event, you might say. But then, as we were going on, and my wife got to see some of the women at the academy and talk to them. She saw that there was a special need for them as just as women to get together and talk about their needs and their requirements and so forth. And so she started a band of sisters. And that's a study that meets in the lower chapel lounge on Thursdays at noon. So they have lunch together and they talk about those things that women need to talk about together. And that's really caught on very well because there's, I would say 50% of the women students at Kings Point come to that band of sisters.
Now, you both have 6 children. One happens to be a 1997 graduate of the United States Merchant Marine Academy, Jonathan Guest.
Right.
Why did he choose Kings Point? Were you a part of that influence? Were the options a part of that influence? What was his reason?
Well, I think both. I think that he was following his dad's footsteps in a way. He came here, and during those years that he was here, graduated in 97, he was able to take the dual program. So he graduated with both a deck license and an engineering license. And right now, by the way, he's engineer on the California Maritime Academy ship on their cruise. And he's remained in the Naval Reserve. He's now Lieutenant Commander in the Naval Reserve. And he kind of followed my footsteps. He went to sea, he did his requirements, seagoing, and then he went to seminary. And now he and his wife are ministering to students from foreign countries at Portland State University on the west coast there in Portland, Oregon. So Kings Point has been a great event for him as well.
Awesome. Now, finally, why 1966 graduate? Still very heavily involved in the academic community here, in the academy community here. Why should, in your opinion, a young person applying to the academy, interested in this service academies and or maritime related industry, why should a young person apply to Kings Point and if they are appointed, accept their appointment?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons. I mean, the biggest reason is the open opportunities. You can go from Kings Point into the maritime industry. If you have other ideas, you can go from Kings Point into any branch of the military, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force, Marines, and they do. At graduation, you see a lot of them in different uniforms, graduating and going on active duty with those different organizations. So the opportunities are wide open compared to other colleges or other military academies. Very wide open. It's one of the best kept secrets. That's the case. The other thing is top-notch education. People sometimes don't know it, but the U.S. News World Report, for instance, last year the U.S. News World Report rated Kings Point #2 out of colleges in the Northeast, small colleges, granting Bachelor of Science degrees. So it's a top-notch education. So it's open opportunities, it's top-notch education, and then of course there's that sea year. Yes. I mean, that's the thing. That's the cherry on top of the sundae is the sea year. The growth, the maturity, the knowledge that you get from being on actual working ships, the knowledge of the industry and the knowledge of going to sea. That's tremendous. Then there's the academy experience itself. I mean, it was the making of me to be here, to be in the regimental system, to have the discipline, and to go through that, as well as the education and the opportunities. I mean, it's just a wonderful experience. Wonderful experience.
And you would do it all again?
I would do it all again. I'm going to come back and go to marine engineering next time.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds very good. Dr. Guest, a pleasure as always. Thank you very much for all that you do.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And that concludes this edition of Kings Point Spotlight. For all of us in admissions, I'm Lieutenant Tyrone Broxton. Until next time, act nonverbal and go Mariners.